Welcome to the second episode in the 5 Gifts of the Spine. The first one was Sense of Self, and if you didn't check that out, I highly recommend it because that is the most intriguing one in my personal opinion. Today we're covering function and behavior, and the next one we're going to do, the last 2 Gifts of the Spine, last but not least, emotion and consciousness. Also very intriguing. So when you think about function, every single part of your body functions because of the coordination of your nervous system. All the signals need to communicate. They need to communicate freely. And in order to do that, they need to do that with the whole network of the nervous system unencumbered. So when you think about it, every single thing in your body, muscles, tissue, organ, brain, spine, glands, digestive system, absolutely all of it functions because of your nervous system's communication of all the different parts. If you don't believe me, go ahead and just, sever the spinal cord, take it out of your body and see how far you get. Cut the nerve to the heart, see how long that lasts, right? So, don't do that. Very important, clearly, obviously, we have to have it in order to have function. Well, one thing that doesn't give much thought is how much tension plays on reducing or amplifying the signals that are happening. Now, one of the things that's really important about the nervous system is everything is in the whole body has to function in complete, coherent balance. It's like a symphony of perfect timing, perfect tempo and rhythms of elements functioning in concert together that changes depending on how you are relating to your environment. So, if you get up out of your chair, your heart has to speed up. If you introduce food, there's digestion, there's metabolic functions that happen with your circadian rhythms. All of these things are coordinated in perfect timing that has to flex with the dynamics of your life. And when you have tension in the spinal cord, it completely can alter that function, either making it hyperactive or it can reduce, okay? Not only that, but tension in the spinal cord can traction or pull down the brain, which can't fit through the hole at the base of the skull. So what happens is the brain stem, which is kind of like a tapered part at the base of your brain that goes actually into the spinal cord. Brainstem actually is like kind of exits the skull. It's not all in the skull. That part gets pushed up against the base of the skull. And that right there is one of the most critical things that can happen to the brain is the traction of the pons cells. And that happens through tension in the body. That's one of the things that we're really big on addressing. And when that tension's happening, it not just affects your function, it affects the sense of self, which we covered in the last episode, as well as emotion, consciousness, and behavior, which is something you're going to see throughout. Now, the main function of the spine is that it protects this structure, but it has to also maintain mobility. So what's really crucial is this balance between stability and flexibility. We have to be able to flow and move our bodies and respond well, but we also have to make sure that the spinal cord is, ultimately protected. And if the body ever has to make a critical decision to choose one of those functions over the other, which one do you think that's going to be? Clearly, it's going to be function, because if you lose function to any of your critical organs, it's game over. If you reduce function, it's a drastic impact on your health, especially over time. That's where we get a lot of chronic conditions. So your body will actually reduce flexibility. That's what arthritis is. That's actually a part of what happens with a slipped disc. It's all strategies your body is doing to take tension off of the spinal cord and the brain stem. So this is one of the things that chiropractors in general are very much focused on, is the impact that tension or misalignments, depending on who you're talking to, is actually impacting function. Now, Network Spinal Care, we are very focused on that tension. We call that adverse mechanical cord tension. It's a term coined by a doctor and researcher, Alf Brieg, and it's absolutely crucial. So when you think about the spinal cord, it also has this sleeve. It's like a suit. It's called the dura mater, and it translates as tough mother because it's like you can't tear it. It's extremely tough, and it wraps around the spinal cord. It wraps around all of the nerves that come out at every single level of the spine that go to your organs, and it actually becomes contiguous with fascia. So if you know about the importance of fascia and how fascia gets twisted, when that happens, it's actually pulling on the nerve root and actually ultimately pulling inside the spinal cord. Now, if you think about my body and my head as the spinal cord and my arm as a nerve root, whenever you've got that tension pulling, that's what's happening. It's pulling up on the nerve right here, and what ends up happening is it's a lot like when you go to sleep on your arm, right? Like, obvious, we've all done that, reduces function, you get that tingling, but you get the tingling and that signal, hey, you need to get off your arm, this is uncomfortable, because you have sensory nerves here. You don't have those sensory nerves to your organs. You don't have it in your spinal cord. You don't have it inside your body for the most part. Now, your nervous system is aware of this tension, but if that tension is a part of your survival response, once again, priorities, nervous system is all about priorities. It's going to choose that survival response over your well-being to your kidney, especially if we're talking about reduced function, right? Because if we don't survive this moment, we won't live long enough to see the impact of reduced signal to your kidney, okay? So it's really a matter of priority. Now, if we can get the body to recognize and reduce that tension and let that go and achieve a higher state of well-being, and also recognize that that tension is not really the best strategy for your survival in the modern world, then we're playing on a whole different level. We become more resourced, and the spine and nervous system grows to a different capability, different capacity, and it becomes smarter. But in order to get smart, you have to have the right information and you have to have the right input. And so that's what we're all about here, is helping the spine and nervous system recognize more evolved strategies. Okay, so another crucial thing. So we talked about that dura mater. So that dura mater, that's that tough mother of a suit, wraps around the whole brain, whole spinal cord, all around the nerve roots. And when that gets pulled, it also pulls on the brain, and it actually can clog and congest. So you have cerebral spinal fluid in the spine. That's another function that's happening, is your spine encases and contains that cerebral spinal fluid. Now, your pituitary gland introduces hormones into that CSF, and that actually gets introduced to the blood flow, to your blood system through there. So crucial, it needs to flow. Do you think it's flowing better if you've got tension locking down the pumps that pump that, which is the bone right here as well as the sacrum? If those things aren't able to move because you've got chronic tension in your spine, now you've got a reduction of the distribution of hormones. Another thing is toxins. The CSF is how your body pulls toxins out of the brain. It cleanses the brain. You've got lymphatic system all in the meninges. They only discovered this like, I think maybe 5 years ago, so maybe more like 8. But, very, very important. I also think it's important to recognize we're still discovering things about the body. Okay, it's important to have a childlike mind when we're thinking about the human body. So crucial that everything moves so that our function can express at its highest. Now, let's move on to behavior. Okay, so the thing is that it makes perfect sense, right? That if you have an unhealthy spine, if your spine doesn't move, if it's got arthritis, if it's stuck, if you're always throwing it out, you're gonna reduce the things that you do. It's gonna alter your behavior in life. That's why Donnie Epstein says the shape, tone, and tension of your spine equals the shape, tone, and tension of your life. So whenever you have tension that's undissolved in your nervous system, in your spine, you're gonna end up creating a lot of changes that you don't want, changes that reduce the function to your organ systems. You're not gonna feel as good, and here's the truth. When you don't feel good, you don't do things. It alters your behavior. You don't think clearly. You don't feel good. You're irritable. You don't make good choices. You don't decide to go on the hike. You decide to instead stay on the couch. These are things not to be underestimated. So it's really important that when we have those things, we're not saying, I'm fine, I'll get by, I can deal with this. Because if it's altering your choices, if you're not making the best choices because your body doesn't have the adaptability, you need to take care of that. Because here's the thing, when we talk about the function, we talked about this balance between stability and flexibility. Your body has to be able to be stable enough to protect and to also hold you upright, but it also has to be able to move. Well, when we end up compromising the integrity of our nervous system, our body will actually lock down parts of our spine and create arthritic changes and literally fuse bone around the joint. That's really what arthritis and degenerative disc disease really is. It's creating more stability in the spine. And it's doing that to protect you. But guess what? Now you go to the gym because you're like, hey, I'm finally want to get my health back together, and you go there and you keep pulling muscles because your spine isn't able to move in a way, so it's straining your muscles. So you get the massage and you go back and you go to see the chiropractor, you're wondering why you're not getting better. Okay? So it's really crucial to take care of the tension that's in your body. It's all about those priorities, because if you don't, your behavior goes down. And here's the thing we know about the nervous system. Everything that we're talking about is all about the nervous system. And the nervous system requires stimulation. When you stop doing something, you don't get better at it, do you? You know, you stop playing, the piano or something, come back 3 years later, it's almost like you gotta have to relearn it. You'll get it back a little quick because you've still got some things there, but there's a reduction in your ability to do so because the nervous system is not getting stimulated in that way, so it actually withers back because your body is all about priorities. So it's energy management. It's choosing, hey, we're not gonna maintain this neural network over here because we're not using it. We're gonna shunt that energy over here because energy is a precious resource. So it's really important to recognize that whatever you're choosing not to do over time, you reduce. So what ends up happening to most people in our culture and with healthcare, as they get hurt and they don't actually recover, or they get medications that actually mask symptoms, they don't actually fix the issue. I can't think of a single medication that actually fixes the issue. Okay, so if you have any possible chance of choosing a different decision in life that keeps you off of a medication, please take it. And one of those things is choosing to try and see what chiropractic care can do for you. Because if you're taking it because of reduced function happening in your kidney, and it's just because of tension, well, that's an easy fix. It's not only an easy fix, but it's an inexpensive fix, and it helps improve the overall function and behavior and all the other gifts of the spine, sense of self, emotion, consciousness. It helps you feel better, you make better choices, you grow more robust nervous system, and now you're living bigger instead of reducing. But when you take the medication or you do any choice in life that says, I don't feel good, I'm not functioning well, I'm going to do less, what ends up happening is your nervous system withers back, and now you raise the bar on what it takes just to do normal again. You're making it harder on yourself to get well. So, 5 gifts of the spine. We covered sense of self last time. We did function and behavior this time. And I hope this is really painting a clear picture of how much attention our spine and nervous system require of us, and how much potential and freedom you have in focusing on growing the garden of your wellness, focusing on the health of your spine, focusing on the health of you, so that you can live the life that you truly deserve, and that is bigger and better and more deep than ever before.